Stop me if you've heard this one before. Server issues, community sentiment in the pits, PvP on PC being overrun by cheaters, uninspired storytelling, botched storytelling, new loot being nothing more than reskins of old loot, PvP being neglected, Gambit being ignored so hard it's virtually MIA, and a sandbox that threatens to undo the whole idea of this being a first-person shooter. There's nothing new about any of this. We've been here before. Two things are noticeably different this time around, and they've got nothing to do with Destiny 2. The very shaky goodwill that Bungie had coming into the season has been dealt a double blow in the form of Marathon and Diablo 4, and it's more than just paranoia of something coming along looking like a Destiny killer. This time, the vibes are noticeably off. But how can an unreleased game that's several years away, and a new game 10 years in the making that has little to no similarity with Destiny 2, suddenly induce scores of apathy from an otherwise loyal crowd? In a word, perspective. Let's talk about Marathon first. Not much is known about the game, except it's a PvP-only affair. It's getting the full bells and whistles like dedicated servers, disconnect protection, and a dedicated security team. It's helmed by ex-Destiny 2 PvP leads, and it's promising to be a classic Bungie shooter in every sense of the word. The reveal was undoubtedly exciting in and of itself, but for many Destiny players, including myself, this was nothing short of confirmation that this is where the energy for PvP at Bungie has gone to for the last couple of years. We've had some highs and lows as PvP players, but the last time any sort of consensus was reached regarding an enjoyable experience was Season 15, during the 30th anniversary DLC released in December 2021. Since then, it's been a generally negative experience. The airborne effectiveness system was introduced in a very unfinished state and was subsequently severely toned down. Trials continued to exist in a divisive state with the flawless ball system encouraging one-and-done experiences, and matchmaking was changed back to skill-based, negatively impacting connections for the most dedicated players and those outside of North America and Europe. The competitive rework arrived with barely anything to show for players' time and efforts, with a ranking system that can be maxed in as little as a couple of hours by the best players. Cheating has recently returned with a vengeance too, so to hear that Marathon is getting a dedicated security team to go along with dedicated servers seems like a serious slap to the face of every PvP player out there. It's great that Marathon might be the PvP experience we've been waiting for, but right now, it's just vaporware, and many feel like they've been buying in to help build something better without any attention being paid to the here and the now. Between now and 18 months ago, PvP players have received one very negatively received map, a broken Trials weapon that got patched in a season, an Iron Banner rework with new game modes that have hardly moved the needle, fireteam-based matchmaking, 2 best-in-slot weapons from comp that can't be farmed, 2 old game modes in Rift and Supremacy, and the return of Rumble. Meanwhile, the Crucible playlist loot remains largely uninspiring, and the yearly vendor refresh that was promised hasn't materialized for 2023. The Crucible's continued lack of meaning has turned it stale, and Marathon has shone a sharp light onto what many suspect are the reasons why. Bungie would never confirm if they've explicitly left PvP to die, but the evidence speaks for itself. When PvE and the Eververse continue to receive new content season after season, and the core playlist can't even get a fresh coat of paint, it's clear where the development team's priorities lie, with the bits of the game that make the money. Which is all the more frustrating because as of June 24th, 4 days before the writing of this video, PvP holds over 46% of the daily player base's attention. That's a huge number and completely annuls the notion that Destiny 2 is a PvE game only. The player base clearly enjoys PvP, and yet nothing is being done to service this crowd. Balancing passes don't count as content. That being said, the PvP player base will continue to play the game because there's nothing quite like it on the market. It's a fantastic experience when it all clicks, but where PvE gets 2 or 3 new seasonal activities per season, PvP offers the same menu year after year with only a few changes to the condiments. There's no denying it. It needs some serious help. Most of you watching this video probably don't set foot in the Crucible, and it's simply because PvE is a better spend of your time from a gaming and loot perspective. When it comes to Diablo, look, there's very little chance it wouldn't have seriously attracted Destiny 2 players. A loot-based video game with a rarity and power system, PvE with shared world matchmaking, a fantastical story that's deeply engrossing and rich in lore, with activities that can be completed solo or with friends. Sound familiar? It shouldn't though, right? Destiny 2 is a shooter, and Diablo is an action RPG. One is first person, and the other is top down. You shoot guns in one, and the other is magical and mystical. They couldn't be further apart as video games on the surface. Yet in reality, both are live service games that adhere to a seasonal model. Both have been designed to have a continuous lifespan with returning players at set intervals. And crucially, both have loot that allows players to deeply customize their characters, which in turn serve as the player's avatar into the world and the story being told. Given the similarities in experiences, there was always going to be a bit of churn, especially with a new hyped game. After all, many players put down Destiny at the end of Lightfall Season to play Jedi Survivor and Tears of the Kingdom, and the same happened with Diablo. However, the latter coincided with the worst run of storytelling in Destiny's recent history and an abject season to boot. Where Diablo offered us the equivalent of a couple of years of video gaming from a live service perspective straight out of the gate, with a campaign of countless missions, side quests, and new systems to learn, Destiny 2 has remained steadfast in its approach to time-gate its objectively thin content. The fetch quest-like system of 30 minutes of gameplay for vague dialogue and minimal character building has started to show its age. In Season of the Deep, the story consists of listening to a back-from-the-dead character commune with a creature we've never seen before, speaking 2 sentences a week. It slowly led up to a good crescendo and the game's best cutscene and exposition drop in over a year, with revelations so massive and impactful that the predominant response has been, why wasn't this part of Lightfall? Lightfall, which shipped 4 months ago, had one of the worst told stories in Destiny's history. It was a sharp fall from grace from the polished and emotional deftness of the Witch Queen, with the marketing leading us to believe that Lightfall would be a worthy successor and would be very Empire Strikes Back in how it resonated with the community. The reality was far more underwhelming, with a MacGuffin-driven storyline that completely took the emotional weight out of the conflict. Season of the Deep was a chance to start to rectify those wrongs, and whilst it's largely succeeded in setting up a new, pivotal conflict for the continuing story, it's also served to further highlight just how bad Lightfall was from a story perspective and has seriously cast doubts on Bungie's ability to stick the landing for the final shape. Enter Diablo. A cohesive campaign with a solid beginning, middle, and end. Typical RPG elements, of course, that involve a lot of back and forth, but with an atmospheric draw that's hard to ignore. Compared to the last 4 months of Destiny 2, this is like going from pickup basketball to the NBA. The tapestry on offer is so much richer that it makes you wonder what you liked about the Destiny storytelling in the first place. Now, of course, they're very different games, and it's not exactly fair to do a one-to-one comparison. And of course, Destiny's true diamond is its lore, and whilst I'm in favor of making sure that Bife, Mylan Games, and so many others have long careers, the majority of the player base is better served caring about what happens when they log in, not when they log out. Diablo is doing a better job of this, and it's not just because it's new. The result of all of this is that people have started to care less about Destiny and started to move on to other games. Even for those that didn't buy Diablo, the last 4 months have been so weak that it's motivated folks to walk away completely. Season of the Deep, combined with Lightfall, has provided us with some of the most mundane reasons to log in to play a video game without renovating the core loop of how we play. A core loop that hasn't really changed since Shadowkeep and the introduction of the seasonal storytelling model. The season itself has offered 3 new activities: Salvage, which is not challenging, boring, and serves mainly as a time sink; Deep Dive, which is genuinely fantastic but has very mediocre loot tied to it; and Fishing, which has been a novel idea but hardly a thrilling reason to log in to play Destiny. Sometimes, a slap in the face is really what you need to snap out of it. And with so many new, excellent games around, Season of the Deep has given us a pretty good slap. If you watched this far, thank you. I would be an idiot to not plug my Twitch channel here on screen and in the description down below. We usually like to talk these issues out on stream. I really enjoy hearing from you all, and a lot of what I've said here has been the natural development of the conversations that started over on Twitch chat. A common thing I saw in the chat was this: I don't care about Marathon, and I don't buy Diablo, but I still don't feel like playing Destiny 2 as much anymore. For a lot of you watching here, I suspect you feel the same way. Your playtime is hardly affected by those two, and more by Destiny 2 being in the state that it is. And everyone has a different reason for it. It's the seasonal activities feeling like filler. It's being tired of microtransactions. It's the fact that the core activities have arthritis. It's the arbitrary approach to balancing, with things being addressed sooner than others. It's the grind and the harshness of RNG taking its toll. It's the service having issues on a daily basis at this point. Nobody can quite put a finger on one thing, because it isn't just one thing, and it's not widespread enough to affect population numbers. But for dedicated players, these small issues have started to add up, piece by piece, day by day. For many, it's not one thing that will turn them away, frustrated. It's the slow death by 1,000 cuts that will do it. Because everyone's tolerance for neglect is different. Everyone's threshold for when frustration turns into apathy is a uniquely individual affair. There are literal years of issues starting to pile up, some minor, some major, and some deeply structural, hard to repair. Even if accounting will say that the revenue charts have never been higher, the rest of the devs must know and feel this on some level themselves. After all, Bungie's mantra is that they make games they want to play. It wouldn't exactly be a big stretch to say a few wish it could be better than it is right now. The vibes are off in a massive way, amplified by Bungie themselves and the new kid on the block. But with player numbers sky high, it's unlikely to make a real difference. The old players will move on and 2 new ones will take their place. The higher-ups at Bungie will point to negative sentiment as evidence of continued engagement, which is ultimately a positive. The only real indicator of something being wrong is apathy. And as much as I wanted to disengage, as a content creator, my livelihood depends on servicing the community that I've built first and foremost. I literally cannot afford to be quiet. And this video may end up existing as a lightning rod for commenters who want to vent their frustrations with the state of the game. But please understand, I didn't make this video to serve as an example of negative engagement. I made this video as a stress relief exercise because I have not been inspired to serve my own community of Destiny players. This is me explaining why I felt apathetic, why I've struggled to make videos I know would do well. I'm having a hard time caring right now, and I want to be an ambassador for the game and continue to build the thoughtful and conscientious community that we have. But even they are looking at other options now. No matter. The final shape is around the corner. Showcase is just under 2 months' time, and once that gets revealed, all of this will be ancient history. That microtransactions video and the follow-ups by Dado, Fallout, True Vanguard, Sweatical, TDT, myself, and many others will be forgotten. I'll be back to making weapon reviews and even indulging in build content for the first time in a proper way. Maybe I'll even become an educational YouTuber again. We'll all be as excited and as hyped as anything going into the new season, and normal service will resume. But please know that when you look back on this time period, these videos aren't just creators farming drama. A spark was extinguished, and we all just want it back.